All right, well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into our presentation today. We are super excited to share about this topic, which is on Gen Z adulting and how the brand decisions they will be making in the next few years will be shaping your customer base for the next few decades. So as we kick off our discussion, let's first clear something up. Not all Gen Zers are teenagers anymore. The geriatric Gen Zers, and yes, that is an actual term, are out there hard launching adulthood. They're managing careers, managing their own money, living independently, all while trying to juggle their social lives as well as the pressure to keep it all together.
And the American dream isn't dead for Gen Z. It's just been completely redefined. While their parents dreamt of climbing corporate ladders, Gen Z is building ladders of their own. And they're leveraging AI, side hustles, and digital communities to create success on their own terms.
But underneath it all, Gen Z still wants the same things their parents did: stability, security, and connection. The dream itself hasn't changed, but everything around it, including the ability to achieve it, has. And that gap between aspiring for similar things, but facing a completely different reality, is where the story and the brand opportunity lives.
All right, well, hi everyone. So my name is Lauren Hall, and I'm joined today with Allison Savinsky and Nikki Crowder, and we are all researchers at Market Vision Research. For those who may not be familiar, Market Vision is a full-service custom research firm that has been serving a vast array of clients worldwide for over 40 years. And as part of Market Vision's Next Gen leadership team, we have had the absolute pleasure of leading our own proprietary research on Gen Z. Not just about who they are, but also how they think, what they want, as well as where they're headed. We also want to take a moment to acknowledge our other colleague, Katie Schallner, who is an integral part of our quantitative efforts.
Absolutely. So over the past 5 years, we have explored a host of fascinating topics, from spilling the tea on how to engage Gen Z as research participants, to taking a peek behind the mask to understand the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Then we took a look at an unfiltered view at how Gen Z wants to interact with brands, and then we even took a deep dive into their state of mind and their approach to mental health. Today, we are super excited to share with you our most recent learnings about how Gen Z is navigating and redefining adulthood. Spoiler alert, it's giving independent with a side of, can someone please explain taxes?
For this research specifically, we focused in on what we refer to as fully launched Gen Z adults, 18 to 28-year-olds living independently, managing their own finances, and defining their career paths. We went all in through dynamic online communities, heartfelt one-on-one conversations, and a quantitative survey with over 1,000 Gen Zers nationwide. We made sure to capture a diverse range of voices across race, geography, economic situation, because we know that Gen Z's adulting journey is not a one-size-fits-all. Shout out to our friends at Disco for helping connect us with these incredible young people.
So what does adulting actually mean to Gen Z? Well, they're not waiting around for traditional milestones to feel grown up. For them, it's all about mastering capabilities, and it starts with money. Nearly half of Gen Zers say that paying their own bills is what makes them feel most like an adult. And financial independence isn't just one piece of the puzzle. It is the foundation that unlocks everything else for them. Now, Gen Z also defines adulthood by two other key areas, and that is personal autonomy and emotional maturity. Now, this isn't to say that those traditional milestones like marriage, home ownership, and having children aren't important to Gen Z, because they are, but their version of adulthood is much broader. For them, it's about progress, accomplishment, and competence. The catch? They feel intense pressure to master it all as soon as possible in the fear of falling behind.
True to form, Gen Z entered adulthood with sky-high expectations. The same high expectations they have for themselves, others, and brands in just about every area of their lives. Coming into adulthood, they didn't just want some things, they wanted it all, just like Quirks Events. Hopefully some of you watching are High School Musical fans. Gen Z didn't just want the perfect career, they also wanted active social lives, hobbies, travel, endless experiences, and they thought that they would be able to effortlessly juggle it all.
But the reality is that it is very challenging for them. As one Gen Zer mentioned, I thought it'd be a walk in the park since I saw my parents do it. I was wrong. And so when these expectations are set this high across every single area of life, that gap hits especially hard. We found in our research that only 35% of Gen Z felt prepared going into adulthood to take on some of these adult responsibilities. And so it's this classic case of, be careful what you wish for. As kids, Gen Z couldn't wait to grow up and do whatever they wanted, but now they're starting to appreciate and recognize just how much doing whatever you want actually costs.
So how do they bridge this reality gap? Well, they turn to the tools of their generation. We know from past research that Gen Zers are researchers at heart, using TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube as their go-to resources. However, today a new sidekick has entered the chat, and that's AI. In fact, 75% of Gen Zers are using AI tools, with 57% using them weekly or more. Need to figure out dinner with 3 random pantry ingredients? Ask ChatGPT. Confused about investing? There's definitely a YouTube video for that. And need outfit ideas? TikTok has you covered. As one of our Gen Zers said, laundry was probably one of the biggest things I had to figure out. I didn't know what colors should go together, and that's where AI comes into play. He then went on to tell us that he actually took a picture of a pile of dirty laundry, sent it to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT told him exactly how to sort the laundry and even gave suggestions for cycles and temperatures. Pretty cool, right? Now, with all of this knowledge and this information at their fingertips, it is no surprise that Gen Z feels more empowered to figure things out on their own than any generation before them. But there is a catch.
All that access comes at a cost. Constant connectivity is mentally exhausting for Gen Z. The very tools that are meant to help them thrive leave them feeling overloaded and stretched thin. So think about that, like the constant pressure of sifting through endless amounts of advice and picking that perfect approach leaves them drowning in this information overload. So much so that we found in our research that some of the top words that they use to describe how adulting feels were all negative. Stressed, overwhelmed, and anxious. And this isn't necessarily new news for us. Over the past 4 years of researching this generation, we found that stress is a defining characteristic for Gen Z.
So, after all that stress and information overload, how does Gen Z view their adulting journey? The answer is, it depends. On average, they rate themselves as a 7.8 out of 10 in terms of how much they feel like an adult. But that number reflects a specific moment in time, not a constant state. One day, they're proud of themselves for meal prepping for the week, and they feel like they finally have their life together. And then the next day, they're right back to ordering takeout and can't even find matching socks. The climb toward adulthood isn't linear. There are wins and setbacks, moments of, I've got this, followed by, what am I even doing? Here's a quick video to demonstrate. This helps explain how adulting can feel so overwhelming to Gen Z, even when they have all the tools to succeed.
And these waves bring universal aha moments of adult discoveries. In one of our online community's activities, we asked our Gen Zers to finish a prompt. And that is, you know you're an adult when, and here were some of their discoveries. You finally understand why your parents were always mad about the lights being left on. You realize doing your own laundry is a bigger accomplishment than any degree. You feel that strange sense of pride in having a fully stocked fridge with actual ingredients and not just snacks. And you realize that bedtime before 10 p.m. is a blessing, not a punishment. Now, I hope many of you are smiling to yourselves right now, thinking of similar moments from your own transition into adulthood.
So then, remember at the beginning of our conversation how we said that the brand decisions Gen Z will be making will last decades? Well, this is how this comes into play. So we found in our research that 62% of Gen Z are renting and 37% own, whether that be a townhome, condo, or a house. And so let's take a moment to think about what that means, right? They're choosing mortgage providers, insurance companies, utility companies, streaming services, a vast variety. Yet we also discovered that a lot of these decisions are joint decisions. So we found that 34% are living with a significant other and 28% be that with a roommate or a friend. And so when it comes to all these decisions, as I mentioned, they're joint decisions about what's getting prioritized, where that money is being spent, how space is being shared. Because we have to remember that they're buying a variety of different things like vacuum cleaners to home decor to kitchen appliances. So it just comes with these constant trade-offs as well as compromise.
So when we asked Gen Z what their biggest adulting struggles were, we learned that it's not the big existential stuff. It's actually the everyday adulting challenges that we all know. From things like cleaning and laundry, dishes, cooking and meal planning, self-care and gym routines, and waking up early and on time. And in trying to tackle it all, Gen Z is constantly feeling like they're running on E. And it's not just the tasks themselves, it's actually the relentless nature of them. As one Gen Zer said, I struggle to finish the laundry because it's a never-ending cycle of washing, drying, folding, so I can never actually check it off my to-do lists. Then there are those one-off nagging tasks that one Gen Zer described as the small but annoying ones that just sit there and haunt me. Things like scheduling appointments and even scheduling your oil to be changed. Now, you might be thinking, welcome to adulthood, we all deal with this, and you're absolutely right, but so are they. And it's especially hard when you're trying to figure it all out for the first time. So instead of dismissing their everyday struggles, Gen Z is looking for brands who are willing to acknowledge the challenge and want to help them adult better.
And on top of all that, those never-ending to-do lists, the cleaning, the laundry, it's not surprising that Gen Z isn't willing to let work take over their lives too. As one Gen Zer put it, I would like to live for life and not live for work. This perspective is shaped by what they've witnessed: corporate downsizing, mass layoffs, job instability their parents never expected. The employer-employee contract has changed, so Gen Z isn't giving up their lives for jobs that might not be there tomorrow, even good ones. That being said, don't get us wrong. Many members of Gen Z are incredibly motivated and want to do good work. But for them, work-life balance is non-negotiable. They want hybrid workplaces, flexible schedules, empowering culture, and above all, authenticity. They expect clear expectations from their employers, so that means no more vague competitive salary language in hiring or unspoken corporate rules. They appreciate when their companies are transparent with them, keep things real, and trust them. And they want to feel valued and be compensated fairly to make ends meet in this new economic landscape.
Because what they know to be true is that the math just isn't adding up. Let's take a minute and put ourselves in their shoes. Skyrocketing rent, soaring costs of everyday essentials, and salaries that just can't keep pace. 74% of Gen Zers say that they face more financial hurdles than previous generations. And it's not just perception. The data actually backs it up. Let's take a look at a video that describes this frustration felt by Gen Z.
I'm Freddie. I run numbers on the internet, and I got to show you something. The minimum wage in 1980 was $3.10. It is now $7.25. The average salary was $12,500. It's now $59,000. And the median household income was $22,000, and now it's only $77,000 for a 3.5 times increase. However, rent was $243 on average. Now it is $1,900 for a 7.8 times increase. The median house price was $47,000. It is now $419,000 for an 8.9 times increase. And the big one, college, was $2,300. It is now $30,000, 13 times more expensive. Our median household income, to feel like they did back then, for rent should be $171,000 for the family, and for college, it'd be equivalent to our family making $286,000. And to remind everyone, the median household income is $77,000.
So while the exact stats may vary by source, the point remains the same, and that is that the economic squeeze is undeniable. So an older generation suggests that Gen Z just budget better or ditch the DoorDash. They are missing the fundamental math problem that they're trying to solve.
So now let's take a moment to understand how some of these challenges are impacting their long-term dreams. One of those long-term dreams, homeownership. We found in our research that 87% of Gen Z who don't currently own a home absolutely want to, yet less than a quarter actually believe that it's achievable even in the future. And the types of things that are going into that, the types of barriers, unsurprisingly, are things like housing costs, insufficient savings for a down payment, as well as rising interest rates. So the bottom line here is that Gen Z still has these big dreams, yet they also have small savings. So what do you do with that?
Well, you flip the script. When the big milestones feel out of reach, Gen Z is changing the way that they think about necessities versus luxuries. For their parents, things like housing and education were seen as achievable necessities, whereas experiences were earned extras. For Gen Z, since home ownership feels like a distant dream, they are making strategic trade-offs and choosing to live for now. And there's even a term for it, and that is soft spending. They are investing in experiences and smaller luxuries versus endlessly saving for milestones that keep moving farther away.
That philosophy is only one aspect of Gen Z's overall approach to money. Finances are at the cornerstone of Gen Z's decision making, and when you can't control the big economic forces, you get really good at controlling the small ones. And Gen Z's strategy is simple: earn more, spend smarter. With Gen Z, the side hustle is real. 51% have a gig alongside their day job to turn their passions and their skills into paychecks. We're talking about everything from driving and tutoring to freelance art, having a cleaning service, travel planning, or even trading cards. And in addition to earning more where they can, Gen Z has turned smart spending into an art form. They've become DIY pros, they go to resale markets, and they stack coupons and discounts so that they never have to pay full price.
So let's take a moment to dive a little bit deeper into Gen Z's financial habits and practice. And one of the things that we found in our research is that Gen Z has a variety of different budgeting tools that they use to track and manage their money. But the fascinating insight we found here is just how often Gen Z talks about money and finances. While previous generations may have thought of it as something a little bit more private or a little taboo at times, Gen Z just shares. Majority of Gen Z feel comfortable sharing about their financial situation with people like their parents, their partners, friends, looking for advice as well as support. And it's called loud budgeting. And we found a study by Bank of America. They found in their research that more than a third of Gen Z felt comfortable declining social opportunities and admitting it was because they couldn't afford it.
But while Gen Z might be transparent about their day-to-day money habits, there's this whole other financial world that Gen Z is still trying to figure out, and that's where they hit a wall. They're fine keeping track of what's coming in and what's going out, but when it comes to the intricacies of their finances, confidence drops.
I don't know what I'm doing! Should I pay a bill? Should I take a shot of vodka? Should I put money into my 401k? What's a 401k?
Less than half feel confident with overall money management, and that confidence is even lower for things like managing your credit score or paying taxes. And then there are the daunting tasks of paying off your student loans and debt, and most unnerving of all, investing. It's all very complex and unclear, and many members of Gen Z don't even know where to start. In our mental health research last year, we found that Gen Z's number one stressor is finances, not relationships, not social media, money.
But of course, this financial stress doesn't exist in a vacuum. Rather, it is amplified by everything that they see around them. Through social media, Gen Z is constantly bombarded by everyone else's main character adulting highlights, featuring dream apartments, career wins, and even travel adventures. Meanwhile, they're stuck juggling the mental math of funds between groceries and gas. One of our Gen Zers put it perfectly. I'm doing all of the adult things. I'm paying bills and things like that, but I still feel like I'm winging it. The result? Imposter syndrome on steroids. They feel like everyone else has cracked this secret adulting code while they're still winging it. And this creates a heavy load of pressure for a generation that's still trying to figure it out in real time.
Yeah, absolutely. And this constant pressure leads to an even deeper challenge. So we find that Gen Z, while they're the most digitally connected generation in history, they're also the loneliest. We found in our research, we did a hashtag not gonna lie confessional activity as part of our online community. And as one Gen Zer said, no one prepared me for how alone I would feel at times. You know, so many of my friends are busy with their own families that I'm just stuck by myself. And this wasn't just apparent in our research. We also found a Cigna study from 2024 reported that 67% of Gen Z reported feeling lonely. So while Gen Z is yearning for this community and belonging, only 17% actually feel confident in finding their people. So while Gen Z can connect with anyone, anywhere, anytime, they're still struggling with what they ultimately desire, which is creating and developing authentic relationships.
So, we've thrown a lot at you, but it's important to understand that this is a pivotal moment. Gen Z is making fundamental decisions about everything: where to live, how to decorate, where to shop, how to invest, and what brands to trust. Gen Z wields over $360 billion in spending power in just the US alone, and that's predicted to reach the trillions within just 5 years. Brands that understand their reality, the pressures, the contradictions, the strategic thinking behind their choices will earn their loyalty in these formative years. Miss this window, and you'll likely be playing catch up for decades.
So ultimately, what does Gen Z need from brands? And in short, they need some help. They're having their Elizabeth James moment. And so within our research and exploring all of their experiences, we surfaced these top 5 challenges that Gen Z is currently facing. So in adulthood, Gen Z is feeling thwarted, overwhelmed, depleted, anxious, as well as lonely. And so what these challenges underscore is that this is your cue on ways to help support them.
And the most successful brands aren't trying to fix Gen Z. Rather, they're becoming allies, meeting them where they are and helping them make progress on their own terms. Here are some ways to show up. The first is be a progress partner. Celebrate progress, not perfection, by helping them get started and make meaningful strides towards their goals. Take Nike Training Club, for example. They help Gen Z celebrate every workout completed, no matter how short, because they acknowledge that showing up is the win, not perfection.
Be a decision curator. So take overwhelming choices and turn them into confident decisions through curation, not more information. Be the helpful friend instead of the know-it-all parent, just like Netflix's Because You Watched feature that takes the decision fatigue out of endless scrolling.
And then be the energy multiplier. So remove the friction and the tasks that drain them. So any ways to automate is something that's gonna land and give Gen Z back the more time that they need. So take Ninja air fryers, for example. They make meal prep a one-step, low-effort win. It's just to dump in and go.
Be a confidence builder. Provide support so that Gen Z can level up gradually rather than expecting instant expertise. And help them bridge the gap between knowledge and action without judgment. For example, if you think back to when Gen Z needs help explaining taxes, TurboTax actually has them covered because they don't just provide tax information. Their software actually walks them step by step through the process so that they can feel confident that it's being done correctly.
And finally, be a connection catalyst. Create authentic experiences that bring people together in meaningful ways. And don't just facilitate digital connections, foster real opportunities to connect. HelloFresh does this by not only taking the stress out of deciding what to cook, but by turning meal prep time into fun, quality time.
So ultimately, Gen Z is Dorothy with the ruby slippers. They're digitally fluent, entrepreneurial, and endlessly adaptable. But their yellow brick road to their vision of success and fulfillment is under construction. So what they're looking for ultimately is that, well, first of all, they know their power, they know their dreams, yet they're also faced with a lot of different challenges. So they're looking for brands that are going to be able to understand all of these different aspects of their lives. Brands that can help partner with them and help them click their heels with confidence. So going all in on this metaphor, will your brand be the Glinda that Gen Z needs to make their dreams a reality? Well, we believe it's possible. So before we wrap up, we know many of you will be watching this with your teams. So we've put together some discussion questions to help reflect upon and figure out what this means for you and your brand.
Gen Z is making brand decisions right now that will stick for decades. These questions will help you assess where you are today, spot opportunities, and decide on your next move.
We hope these spark some good conversations with your team, and if you have upcoming research needs, whether it's a project focused on Gen Z or they're part of a larger initiative, we'd be happy to explore how we can help. Thank you so much for your time today. We hope that this gives you fresh perspective on connecting with the generation that's redefining what it means to be an adult.